Well, welcome to this week's edition of Thursdays with Mike, and I'm just going to have you join me for a walk. It's actually a reenactment of a walk of sorts. I had this lovely walk on Monday. It was actually Monday, like 1 o'clock. Okay, I had to dodge the goose poop on the sidewalk. So much of life is dodging the goose poop, isn't it? And just hoping it doesn't drop on us. Okay, anyway, had a very nice walk. Okay, that's bad. I had a invigorating walk and exchange, walk and talk with my friend Julie on Monday, just around the building numerous times. I was waiting for someone to show up for a funeral. To coordinate the details of a funeral, which is why I'm wearing a tie. I've got the funeral coming up this afternoon, another one on Saturday, so I'm just kind of in burying mode this week as I'm dodging goose poop on the sidewalk. Julie and I are walking around the building as I am right now, in between rains at this point. Hopefully it doesn't start raining in the middle of this. But it's nice enough, and I wanted to reenact as much as possible. So we're talking about really important spiritual matters, like what have you been binge watching lately? How are things at work? How much Zooming are you having to do at work? And how much life interruption have you been experiencing here recently? Because it'd been a while since we'd caught up with each other. And I don't know how the subject turned exactly. Didn't take, I guess, too much verbal gymnastics or mental exertions to perhaps get to the subject of just the polarizing of our culture, and red and blue, and Trump and Biden, and mask and unmask, and et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm asking the question. In fact, it was right about here in the walk. I mean, literally right about here, where I was asking the question. I said, we read Romans 14, and I actually encourage you to read Romans 14. You could even pause this right now and read it if you'd like. Read it from the Message especially. Love the Message rendering. But Paul is dealing in Romans 14. Think of it as page 14 of a long letter to the Romans, in which he's trying to really present to them a comprehensive view of what it is that God has accomplished in Christ. And that's not just for our intellectual stimulation. That's actually for the practical application of how we do life together. Specifically, in the first century context, how understanding what it is God has done and accomplished in the life and death and burial and resurrection of Jesus, what is accomplished through that, how that impacts something as practical as the guest list for your dinner tonight. The fact that you have Jews and Gentiles who, they have different menus. There's a kosher issue. There's also a pagan, there's kind of the pagan God issue, since wine, a portion of which is poured out as a libation to a god, or any meat that has been offered and blessed in a pagan temple, just got all of it tainted. It's all contaminated. And so how can people for whom that's an issue sit down with those for whom it's not? Because you have some saying, oh my gods, that's actually offered to a god, and so therefore I am now complicit in idolatry. I'm more than that, I'm actually participating. I mean, I am approving in the act of idolatry. I'm acknowledging the existence of these gods, and I'm worshiping them as we eat. Others saying, are you daft? Seriously? No, it's just, no. Idols are nothing in the world. And the earth is the Lord's and everything in it, the world and all who live in it. And so, therefore, we can eat what we please. Did not Jesus say, whatever goes into the mouth goes into the belly and then is cast out into the latrine? And so, therefore, he declared all meats clean. And so you're just being silly. And so there was judgment going back and forth. There's judgment on those who actually eat. That they're compromisers. There's condemnation and just belittling, condescension towards those who actually think it's an issue. And so table fellowship is broken, and all of a sudden we've got a red and a blue church. We have a Gentile and a Jewish church and fellowship because they simply can't eat at the same table. And Paul's, when he comes to the 14th page of this letter, he's just saying, this is what the impact of Christ's teaching is. He is the Lord of both the dead and the living, so he might free us from the petty tyrannies of one another. And therefore we're able to actually get over it and join each other around a common table. So my question then to Julie is, how did they do that? How did they navigate that and actually remain one fellowship? Because you look at us, we splinter over everything. I mean, we've got Catholics and Protestants, and we've got the Greek Orthodox and Protestants. Oh, good gravy. We've got, we have a virtual rainbow, a schismatic rainbow. And as has been observed, I think it was Martin Luther King Jr., wasn't it, that observed that Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in America, as we have Korean churches and black churches and white churches and Hispanic churches, and we just can't seem to actually occupy the same space. We all have to do our own thing, our own language, our own culture, our own theology, our own nuances. We baptize this way. I mean, even in my Church of Christ heritage, you had the one-cuppers, you had the non-instrumental, you had the instrumental, you had the Sunday school, you had the anti-Sunday school, you had the one-cup Sunday school fellowship hall with food in the building. You had the plurality of cups, non-Sunday school, but fellowship hall with food in the building, and all these permutations, and they all hate each other. Okay, they wouldn't say they hate each other. It's just they think each other's going to hell because they're in violation of Scripture, and therefore they can't share a table with each other, let alone a sanctuary. So my question to Julie is, how did they do it? And this might seem like Julie's last name is Downer. So this might seem like a really downer moment here, and I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer, but it was like an epiphany, which really isn't fatalistic at all, but it was just like a sudden epiphany that hit me. Wait a minute, they didn't do it. They didn't actually do that at all. They didn't remain one fellowship of Jew and Gentile sharing the same table and realizing Paul's lofty ambitions, or even that prophetic word that in this way all Israel will be saved. No, in fact, the temple was destroyed, Israel scattered and very nearly destroyed yet again. The Gentiles coming in did not result in a wave of Israel, like a tsunami of Israelite conversion. Didn't happen. It was the opposite. Israel was nearly exterminated yet again. Temple was destroyed. Jerusalem ultimately plowed under. And what happened? The church became totally Gentile, and within half a century? Did it take that long? Was it a little bit longer? Church became so Gentile that it forgot its Jewish roots and actually was persecuting and in many cases making war against. Now this is going fast forwarding a little bit perhaps to the Middle Ages, but the fact is, yes, even making war against and trying to exterminate the Jewish community, and pogroms as a religious measure. The Easter story actually promoting hatred of Jews as Christ killers and so forth. And so I just look at Chile. It's like, wait a minute. It didn't work for them either. Within a decade of Paul writing these words, everything just totally fell apart, and all the dreams were in ashes. And we actually have interpretations of Romans. Romans 11, all Israel will be saved. Well, that's all Gentiles who are now regarded as Israelites. It's called replacement theology. So, no, they didn't do it either. Good morning, John.
Hello, Reverend. What are you going to a funeral?
I am going to a funeral. Hey, just say hi to everybody. This is.
Hi, everybody.
See, now it's Thursdays with John and Mike. There we go.
Hey.
This is my sweetie.
Comedy team.
All right, so this was my revelation, an epiphany. It was like, yeah, how did they do it? No, they didn't do it. They were just as flawed, and the culture just as, okay, I'm just going to say doomed. They didn't successfully do it, so they weren't like superhuman, and that's the non-fatalistic part. It's not that we're doomed to failure, but we are humans just like them. So we need to give ourselves a little bit of slack here. We don't have that generation or the following generations judging us any more than we should probably be comfortably sitting here judging them, thinking we are so much more enlightened than they are. It was just this marvelous moment. I don't need to try to recapture anything that they had. I just need to take hold of what we have, perhaps a little bit more, I don't know, effectively, at least for myself, within my circle of influence. What am I doing to actually deploy Romans 14, the whole spirit of Paul's letter to the Romans, which is, in other words, deploying the meaning of the realm of God impacting earth, beginning right here at ground zero in me. And that was a really liberating thought. And that's what comes, I think, to all of us. So, well, there you go. I think that's it. And it's getting windy and cold. And my hand is, my hand is numb. So I will stop there and just leave you with that. Read Romans 14. Absorb the heart of it. And don't smugly judge either those who have preceded us as failures, or compare yourself with them and thus consider us a failure or yourself a failure, because they were such spiritual giants. They have flesh like ours, and no, it never really happened for them historically. Question is, what can we make happen historically right now? Without big grandiose visions, how can we be salt and light and little mustard seeds of faith, hope, and love, with an open table to everyone God would invite? Yeah, that's probably enough challenge for today. So there you go. Thank you, Julie, for the walk, and thank you all for joining me on the walk today. And we'll see you next week. I'm gonna go inside.